Hey everybody, it's Mahadeva, the OG Thunderwizard. All right, so as I've shared with you, this is my new catchphrase. Take back control of your soul. Reverse their programming. Change your narrative. Your narrative controls you. This is true whether you suffer from many extreme psychological issues. You've been programmed and you're just following the twisted program that's been downloaded into you. If you're just an average person who's just trying to get through this crazy world and you're struggling in whatever areas, it's because you've been programmed to operate a certain way. And I'm no different than any of you. I was programmed. I have my own programming. I'm still deprogramming myself, changing my narrative. So I'm going to reveal to you some students who are seeking to question and expose the Thunderwizard. Am I a crazy nutbag lunatic? Am I manipulating you? Am I lying to you? Am I fraud? You know, all that kind of stuff. Now, I'm exaggerating a little bit because I do like to get views, so a little bit of clickbait for you there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at a couple of different comments and interactions that I've had recently. Before I do that, let's talk about apprenticeship. So you can come to the conclusion whether or not I'm an insane cult leader. One of the things that I offer, if you go to thunderwizard.com and you click around, is that you will see an apprenticeship option. You'll see a few different apprenticeship options. So an apprentice is somebody who gets to have a one-on-one session with me at least once a month, as many times as once a week, if they're willing to pay for my time. And the idea behind apprenticeship is that even though it's not a true apprenticeship in the sense of the traditional apprentices, you moved in. You moved into the teacher's house and you cooked and you cleaned, and if he was an ascetic, you went out and begged and you brought him food, and then you would sit at his feet and he would teach you. If you're an apprentice to some skill, like you want to be a woodworker or a mason, then you would be the basic assistant and helper. If you're an apprentice to a wizard or a healer, you might have to go out and once he teaches you how to do it, you might have to go and gather the herbs and create the concoctions, and so you end up learning by doing. And if you're lucky, you get a place to sleep and some food to eat. Outside of that, you don't get much of anything. Traditionally speaking, when it comes to teachers, you pay them money. There is no, I've said this many times before, the misunderstanding, as I just revealed in a recent comment, the misunderstanding that spiritual teachers should just simply teach for free has never been the case. There has never been a case in history when traditional teachers are seen to just be there and their job is to just teach you 24 hours a day and not require any kind of payment from you. There are people who give to charity, they'll feed the poor, things like that. That's not the same. That's not a spiritual teacher. That's burning off your karma, going down and feeding the poor or rescuing animals. That's a whole karmic thing. That's not a spiritual teacher. A spiritual teacher has knowledge and has a skill that you want. Or anybody else. If you want to learn martial arts, they have something that you want and you must exchange. There must be an exchange. And as I've said many times before, if a teacher does not demand some kind of payment from you, then run, because it is impossible. I want you to listen to me. I want you to underline this. It is impossible for somebody to give anything, especially spiritual knowledge, without having an agenda. It's impossible. They might tell themselves, I know because I tried doing it. There was a time when I taught people the spirit fighting for free. I had one student, one apprentice that I taught for, I don't know, it might have been a couple of years. And I taught him for free. And I did that for the same reason that a lot of people want free teaching from spiritual teachers. I did it because I resented having to pay so much money and go through so much stuff that my teachers demanded of me. They did the normal strict teaching, you do this, you pay this, you show up, yes sir, no sir. And I resented that. And I thought there's a better way to do this until I tried doing it. And I taught this guy for free for a couple of years, and it turned out to be a mess because he ended up having agendas on me that he wouldn't have had if I had made a straight, you pay for me for my time and I teach you. So I do that now, and people ask me, why do you charge people money? Besides the obvious of this is my full-time job and so I need to eat. Besides that, even if I were independently wealthy, I would still demand that you pay something. Even if that money went to charity, it wouldn't matter. I would still demand that you pay it. Because if I don't, then you run the risk of me having an agenda on you. Which means this is what happens with every cult leader. If you dig far enough, you will find abuse. You will find sexual abuse, financial abuse, every single time. Unless they really are this wizard that lives on the top of a mountain and doesn't need to eat. Those very few people that are this close to disappearing. But those people, even they'll be smart enough to make you work for it. They'll make you do something. They'll say, oh, you want to learn this? All right, go feed the poor for 2 months. Give away all of your money to the poor and then come back. They will make you pay in some way, even if it's not to them. So when it comes to apprenticeship, here's what I require. Now, I've set it up very easily, so you don't have to go through that. You want to be my apprentice, and you want to learn all of the stuff that I have here, or be the best that you can be, whatever that is. If you want to be my apprentice, it's very easy for you to do. You just go to thunderwizard.com and you click around, and anybody can sign up and become an apprentice. What I used to do before I had all of this stuff going on is if somebody came to me and just wanted to be a student, I would say, okay, great, we have to meet and I have to interview you and you're going to pay me for my time. Right there, I knew if somebody was serious, because if they weren't willing, at that time it was like $40. If you weren't willing to pay me $40 to have me talk to you and ask you questions to see if I could help you and to see if you would be able to learn this, if you weren't willing to pay that, then I already knew that it wasn't going to work because you weren't willing to sacrifice for the knowledge. Meaning you wouldn't be willing to do, if I asked you to do something difficult, you wouldn't do it. So that right there, washed out a lot of people. Now you don't have to do that. You sign up and you're ready to go. Nobody's going to stop you. But here are the rules that I have to follow with my teacher. I still have a teacher. Here are the rules that I have to follow. I have to pay him for his time. I have to show up to every single session that I've asked for. So if I've purchased a session from him or reserved a session, I have to show up. I have to show up for that. If I'm not going to show up, I have to give him notice. And I require that my students give me at least 24 hours notice. If you don't give me 24 hours notice and you don't show up or you cancel, then you've lost that money. I mean, we could get into how it's, it eats into my time, and it is very inconvenient for me. So it's interesting to me, again, people, they don't know any better, but sometimes people won't show up and they'll say, oh, I messed up the time, or I had a flat tire or something like that. Can I reschedule? And it doesn't even dawn on them that you shouldn't be able to do that. It doesn't make any sense. So I say, no, you can reschedule, but you're going to have to buy another session from me. And then they go, oh, okay, never mind. Or they don't understand. What do you mean? I've already paid. Why do I have to pay again? Well, because you missed the session. I was here. You paid me for my time. I gave it to you. Whether you show up or not is not my problem. The other thing that I require, in case you don't know, in case you're an apprentice of mine and you don't know, the other thing that I require is that if you are signing up as an apprentice, you're signing up for the long haul. Now, I can't force you to stay any length of time, nor would I. You can unsubscribe anytime you want. There's nobody forcing you to stay for any certain length of time. Now, in the past, when I was teaching this stuff live, I would have people commit to 6 months. Once they got past the interview, if I thought that they had the potential to learn, I would say, great, now you have to commit for 6 months no matter what happens. You can't leave for 6 months. If you do, you're out. So they had, of course, now I couldn't enforce that. I couldn't enforce them. They could leave whenever they wanted, but they had to at least have the idea that they're committing for 6 months. I don't require my apprentices to do that at all. But if you're going to leave, you have to talk to me first in a paid session. You have to talk to me in a paid session, and you have to give me the opportunity to ask you questions to determine whether or not you're right, that this isn't the place for you, or if I get the feeling that you're operating on your own resistance, your own self-sabotage, and you are unconsciously, you've convinced yourself that this is, for whatever reason, you can't do it, I'm going to question you on that. And then you can make the decision as to whether or not, you were right, or sometimes, most of the time, at some point people will realize, you're right, I've got unconscious fear about this and that, and okay, so yeah, no. And I'll say, great, I'll see you next month or next week, and we'll take it from there. And so that is because I've gone through the same thing. I can't unilaterally leave working with my teacher. I can't. I can't just decide on my own that I'm not going to show up. If I am wanting to leave, I'm required to go to him in a paid session, and I have to tell him, I think you're a liar, I think you're abusing me, I think that you're wrong about this, I think that you're mistaken, I think you're projecting onto me. I've had numerous, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten together with him, told him that I think he's projecting on me, so I know. And he says, listen, I'm not putting a gun to your head. If you want to leave, there's the door. But here's what I think is going on. And after I think about it, I realize that I agree with him. I believe that he's right, and I'm still here to this day with him. I don't agree with absolutely everything he's ever said or some of his opinions, but I don't care. He has something that I want, and I always learn and grow when I work with him. So if somebody's going to be my apprentice, they have to tell me in a paid session. You can't send me an email telling me, I think you're wrong about this, and you can't do that. You have to talk to me about it. You can't unilaterally just unleash your unconsciousness on me. And you can still leave whenever you want. If you choose to do that, if somebody chooses to leave, they don't get to come back. Unless we agree otherwise, unless something's going on like, hey, my mom's dying, I have to go to Minneapolis and I have to live with her, I don't have the money, and it's going to take me, I'll be back in 6 months. Something like that. I'm happy to work things out. Stuff happens, life happens, I'm not unaware of that. But you can't just decide to leave and come back because I need a break. Nope, can't do that. So when people do that, they unilaterally will send me an email. It happens all the time. They just start working with me, and they'll send me an email saying, I'm going to take some time off and I'll be back in 6 months. And and I go, gosh, I didn't have that talk with them. They don't know they can't do that. But if I say that to a student, and I have numerous times, there's been numerous students where I get them to promise to me because they'll want to talk about, I don't want to work with you anymore. I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. And then they find out, okay, I really do. Then I say, listen, you can't unilaterally leave We have to make the decision together. It's a relationship. And you're welcome to leave whenever you want. If you choose to unilaterally leave, it's for good. The reason for that is because I won't be able to teach you. If somebody comes and trains with me for 6 months and then it's too much for them, and they've decided that they need to take some time off, and so they're going to unilaterally decide that and then announce that to me, I know that they're not going to be able to take my suggestions and my direction about things that are going to be challenging for them. And let's be clear, this stuff is challenging. You will be challenged to your core. You cannot become a Dr. Manhattan without being torn apart. Now, I don't tear you apart. Unlike what you might think when you see me on these live Q&As. I mean, this is my Aruda, if you know anything about astrology. That's my Aruda. My Aruda is to be the in-your-face, chef, what's his name? The guy that yells at everybody. That's my Aruda. That's my job. I got a limited amount of time, and I'm going to get to your unconscious self-sabotage and show it to you and pull your pants down in front of the whole world, and you're not going to like. That's my Aruda. But one-on-one, I don't do that. For the most part, I'm very patient, very kind. If you're really out to lunch, I might tell you the truth in ways you don't want to hear, but that's not really my modus operandi, so to speak, with my students. So if you come to me and you say, "Listen, I'm going to take 6 months off," and I'm going to say, "Well, you can do that, but you can't come back." And they'll say, "Why?" And I say, "Because I won't be able to teach you if you're not willing to sit through your discomfort." And then when I ask them questions, unless they're able to convince me that there really is some kind of life-changing, meteor crashing into the world kind of event, we both realize it's because, there's something about the teaching and the practice that's upsetting you, and it's causing you some pain and some discomfort and some challenge, and you just want to break. And so this is important because life doesn't do that. You can't take a break from life. Life will thrust upon you what it's going to thrust upon you, and you don't get to turn it off for 6 months. You are here, you've incarnated because you're here to learn. You're here to learn and you're here to grow by your own choice. And so if you don't consciously do your best, nobody needs to be perfect, but if you don't consciously do your best dealing with the challenges that come, you will end up suffering. You will end up unconscious. So as I tell everybody, if you're miserable, if you're poor, if you have major health problems, if you have relationship problems, if you can't get a job, if you're, while I don't judge you for any of it, in fact, I may share some of your symptoms, the fact of the matter is that it means that you're not honestly dealing with life on a conscious level. There's some unconsciousness going on. You are refusing or unable to deal with something within yourself, and it unconsciously manifests outside of you. So let me be clear about this. You've heard me use the word passive-aggressive. Passive-aggressive is, really unconsciousness in the making. Passive-aggressive, a simple example is if, some woman walks into a room and there's a few other women there, and the woman says, how do you guys like my shorts? And they say, "Oh yeah, that's great for you. Yeah, I had a pair of those last year. Yeah, they were beautiful. I was really in style then." So that's passive aggressive. They're not owning what they really want to say, which is, "No, that looks horrible. It's totally out of date. You look ridiculous." As horrible as that would be to say, that's what they want to say. So in order not to be revealed as being evil people, they shove it down and it comes out passive aggressive. When you are not consciously facing your life, when you shove things down, as we all do, to avoid the pain or to avoid the shame or to avoid the embarrassment or to fit in or to get what you want from somebody or whatever, whatever, whatever. Whenever you do that and you push things down into your unconscious, you can't tolerate the pain. I want to leave my relationship with my wife, but I can't tolerate the pain, the shame, because everybody will say, you're supposed to stay married forever. You're not allowed to divorce. And if I shove that down, which I did, I'm telling you, this happened to me, before my divorce 10 years ago. Then what ends up happening is you end up acting that out destructively in yourself. Like for myself, I created all kinds of psychosomatic illnesses. I had knee pain, joint pain, back pain, neck pain. I had all kinds of just garbage going on physically. The doctors were telling me, oh, you'll never do this again, you'll never do that again. But that's what happens. Whenever something goes into the unconscious, it always comes out. You can't make things go away. They will come out, and they'll come out destructively every time. So you must, if you live this life, you're being asked by the universe to live consciously, which means you have to own. If you take action and you own it, even if it's difficult, even if it's unacceptable by the world, or you'll end up losing relationships or money or jobs, you will be rewarded with health, you'll be rewarded with consciousness, you'll be rewarded with ultimate success later on. But if you push it down, it will manifest. So if a student comes to me and they say, I need to take some time off, and they're going to make a unilateral decision, if they talk to me about it in a session, I'm going to say, you can't do that. And they'll say, why? And I'll say, well, because then that tells me that when I give you something to do, or I suggest something, or we uncover something, and you come to the realization about something you have to do for yourself, then you won't be able to follow through. And if you're not willing to follow my directions and my suggestions, then I can't teach you. And if I can't teach you, it's not worth my time. It's too much effort. I don't want to, you don't pay me enough to bang my head against a wall. So what I do offer people is if they want to have a private session with me, like if you want to come and go at your leisure, you can do that, but you pay a higher price. So you go to, in case anybody wants just a private session, you go to career.thunderwizard.com. You scroll to the bottom of the page, and at the bottom of the page you will find a buy now button, and instead of $108 per session, which is what I charge apprentices who are, I'm assuming, in it for the long haul, if you just want a one-off session, then it's going to cost you $298. It's going to cost you another $200. And the benefit of that is that you can be as difficult and challenging for me as you want, and you can come and go at your leisure, and you don't have to follow through with anything. You don't have to commit to anything. So you're paying for that privilege of being able to walk away and do whatever the hell you want, whenever the hell you want it. As is your right. I do it all the time. I go get massages. I get services. If I had hair, I would go to the barber. You pay once, you don't ever have to come back. If you want that privilege with me, it's going to cost you a little more. But if you're signing up to be an apprentice, it means that you're signing up for the long haul. So I'm investing in you. I cut my price down by 2/3 because I want to invest in your long-term healing, your long-term growth. But the side of that is that you have to also be investing in your long-term growth. When I first started training in this, nobody told me to do this. I must have learned it from a past life or what have you. But I showed up and I saw guys doing this kind of stuff, which looked ridiculous to me. Somebody recently left a comment and said how ridiculous I look. I totally agree. It looks absolutely ridiculous. And I saw these guys doing this ridiculous, crazy dance, but I said, I have an opportunity to do this. I've been invited. I'm not going to be able to do this anywhere else. What have I got to lose? I will give myself 6 months, which is why I used to say that to previous students. I'm going to do it for 6 months, no matter how ridiculous it is. And I won't even consider leaving until after I've been in it for 6 months. Then I will decide whether or not I want to stay. Now, within one class, I had made the decision that this was it for me. I'd found what I was looking for, so I stopped looking. But that's a valuable trait in a student. So, somebody wants to be my apprentice, they get 2/3 off of every live interaction with me, but they've got to, number one, show up or give me at least 24 hours notice if they want to change. And if they don't do that, they've lost that. They've given me $108, which does not pay for my time. I could have gone surfing. And there have been no shortages of excellent surf mornings, and I wake up and the conditions are perfect, and I can't go because I have clients. And then they don't show up. And I'm like, I could have been surfing. So $108 does not pay for a irretrievable surf session. No amount of money does that. So you have to do that. If you're not willing to do that, then for your own sake, don't waste your time. So, so let me get to let's just deal, before I get to that, if I get to it. Maybe I'll get to it, maybe I won't. But there was a response from somebody, which I appreciate, somebody who's been leaving, as I've said, leaving strange, what am I doing here? I don't want that. I don't want that. Somebody who's been leaving strange comments that I literally don't know how to interpret. And the last one, they asked me, is there anything that you can do to prove your powers online? Like, can I do some sort of demonstration live in this video to prove my powers? And I found that strange, because this is somebody who, to my understanding, is a what do you call it? Is not an apprentice. This is somebody who's signed up for the Patreon, the Warrior 90 Day. So I'm not going to read his entire response to me here. He's explaining about one of the questions I didn't understand, and I won't get into that. Except for this one. So he says, on fighting self-defense, can you really destroy someone in a fight with Qigong? So, first off, let me be clear about something. I don't teach martial arts. I would never teach martial arts online, ever. Even though I'm showing you these forms, I know that even if you do your best, you're not seeing the whole forms, even if you do your best on your own to try and replicate those on your own, you will not be able to use them in a fight. I could be wrong about that, but I'm pretty certain that you won't know so many important tiny little details about stance and movement, not to mention the energy transmission that has to happen, all those other things. There's just no way, which is why I only have bits and pieces on here for you to see. So I would never teach martial arts online, because you can't. You can't. You just simply can't do it. So it wouldn't matter what I say. So, I mean, you're just going to have to take me at my word when I tell you the stories of what I went through. And I totally don't blame you if you don't believe me. I wouldn't believe me either. I have no interest in proving my martial prowess to anybody, especially since I haven't been training as a martial artist for a very long time. I've made a vow, I've taken a vow of nonviolence, which means that under no circumstances can I allow myself to use my skills, good or bad, on anybody. So this question is irrelevant. Can you really destroy someone in a fight with Qigong? The answer to that question is no, because Qigong is simple. I can already tell that this person doesn't know Chinese martial arts. Doesn't understand even the ones that we could laugh about, like Tai Chi, which used to be actually a pretty badass martial art. Tai Chi is a martial art that is itself a form of Qigong, but Qigong is not martial arts. Martial arts have Qigong in them, some of them. Wing Chun, Tai Chi, tons of others. Xing Yi, Bagua. They have within them Qigong just by learning the forms you are doing Qigong. Does that mean that you'll be able to use it in a fight? No. Somebody has to teach you how to do that. And then you have to practice. And you have to learn how to strike and release energy all at the same time. So can you really destroy somebody in a fight with Qigong? No. When did I ever say that? I never did. I guess maybe I should be more clear about that, but anybody who's trained in Chinese martial arts knows the difference. If I'm talking about this form does this and you do this, they'll know that that isn't the same as putting it into practice on the street. They already know that. I don't have to explain that to them. So this is somebody that hasn't trained in Chinese martial arts, or they wouldn't have to ask that question. It goes on to say, for you, if you were empowered sufficiently in a proper fight, could you crumple a paid MMA fighter easier than you crumpled your large student? So I don't know what he's talking about. Some people have found, if they've looked, they found a very, very old video of me doing some practical applications on a guy who came to me to learn. And as he came to learn from me, we do what we do in many martial arts. And I say, stand here, put your hand here. Here's what we do in this situation. You block here and you punch here. It's totally, completely fabricated. It's choreographed. It's not a fight. Why is it that you throw this end up here and then do this and this? Oh, that in a perfect world is when you're blocking here, trapping here, punching here. And this is how it would look. No, not like that. Put your hand here. It's totally unnatural. Anybody who's trained in martial arts knows that. Especially, the martial arts that have forms. They know that. You don't have to explain it to them. They know there's a difference between doing a form and doing a choreographed thing and what happens when you're in the street. Everybody knows that. Unless they've never been in a fight. So these questions are coming from a complete lack of knowledge, but they're also coming from, well, I'll get to that in a second. So could I sufficiently, I don't know if he's talking about me or does he say, could anybody, if they were empowered sufficiently, I don't know what that means. What is empowered? Does he mean if he's done the forms and he's been empowered, will he be able to defend himself on the street? I have no idea. Because then there comes in the your own instincts. I've trained with people who could do the forms perfectly. Their forms looked beautiful. But when it came to actually, delivering energy and strikes, they couldn't do it. When it came to responding intuitively in a sparring situation, they couldn't do it. So what does that mean? You practice the sets, does that mean you're going to be able to take on a... I've never promised that, nor am I teaching that, and of course not. It all depends on the individual. You've got to have proper training, practice, intuition, innate skills, physical strength. You got to have all that stuff. You don't have any of that stuff. None of this matters. This is why Tai Chi is that's why Tai Chi has devolved into what it is, which is it's a health exercise, and it's a absolutely brilliant health exercise. Now, because I am trained, and in my own mind at least, I'm talented. I have instincts and ability. So I can train just the Tai Chi form and I will know how to use it. But that doesn't mean somebody else will. So I don't understand the questions here. This is what this person has questions. I don't understand their questions. These are coming from, this is somebody trying to look at things from the outside, trying to figure it out and asking ahead of time. You have to do it. You won't know until you do it. You won't know until you do it. And the same would be true for any martial art. Doesn't matter if it's wrestling or jiu-jitsu. I've run into jiu-jitsu masters who've said that they've gotten into fights on the street and nothing that they knew how to do worked on these guys. It was as if they just refused to let their jiu-jitsu work on them. There's always going to be something that you can't figure out ahead of time. He says, so I imagine the students should hold the advantage because they've trained in martial arts and Qigong. I'm not saying that. I don't even know why you're asking me this. I don't teach it. Would you consider sometime in the future demonstrating a proper paid fight for us? I'm just reading this for the first time. It's so huge. Are you kidding me? No. I've taken a vow of nonviolence, but even if I hadn't, what makes you think that you're so important, that your need to feel as though there's something spiritual and out there that I have to go and get in the ring with somebody just so you can see that maybe I'm teaching something valuable? And again, I'm not teaching martial arts. That is not martial arts. That is a kung fu form that you can use that will give you all kinds of crazy, wonderful, energetic powers. If you want to use it as a martial art, you better find somebody who knows how to use it as a martial art and get them to teach you. I'm not going to do that. So this is again, before I go any further, this is somebody, what I get, this is somebody who lives vicariously and they want to know ahead of time. This is coming from the same place of, can you tell me exactly what I'm going to get if I train in your Qigong? No. How am I supposed to know what you're going to get? Before I take your bodybuilding routine, can you tell me exactly how many inches are my arms going to get? No, I have no idea what your innate potential is. It just shows such a lack of experience. It shows incredible immaturity. It may be a sincere question, but it shows so much insecurity and incredible, what's the word I want to use? Entitlement. That you're so important that I have to go get in a fight just so you can see that I have martial powers. No, it's never going to happen. It's just such an unbelievable question. I imagine anyone untrained in Qigong, you crumple energetically. Again, he's talking about an old video. I'm not bothering to show that to you guys. Or I've said something, based on something that happened and, whenever. Let's see. I imagine anyone untrained in Qigong, you crumple energetically, could also be similarly repaired and healed of the traumatic experience of having fighting you. Oh my God. So, when I taught in person, when I taught martial arts in person, and what I taught people how to deliver energy strikes, which aren't the no-touch stuff. I don't know how to do that. I've heard of it. To be honest, I did it a couple of times. I don't know if I could replicate it if I chose to. But everything you're doing me here are strikes. Those I'm making contact with somebody's body. I'm blocking, punching. Those are all strikes. designed to inflict all kinds of damage. But when I taught, I never taught to harm. So if I demonstrated energy, it would be just enough for them to feel. And if I ever show you that video, you'll see me just barely tapping somebody, and him, you'll hear a sound and you'll hear him make a noise, and sometime he'll go, "Oh my God, that was amazing what you just did," just for, you know. But you have no way of knowing that, nor do I expect you to know that. The reason why I didn't put those up, I made a bunch of those videos for my teacher because he wanted to promote himself. So we made a bunch of videos of him and me doing that to people. But it looked ridiculous. It looked fake. It looked choreographed, and it looked unrealistic. I just said, this isn't going to work. People will never buy this. Because what works in the movies is when you throw a punch and the guy goes flying up against the wall, splattered up against the wall. That's what sells. But that's not what this stuff is. You just barely touch somebody and they crumple to the ground. It looks ridiculous. It looks fake. It's, you know, this is why I can watch Muhammad Ali in the famous shadow, whatever it is, the punch against Sonny Liston. The phantom punch. I can see it. They slow it down and I totally see it. To the average person, it looks like he's just barely tapping him. And I can tell by his body language and his body English that destroyed him. Because I learned how to do those kinds of things. But it doesn't work well. It doesn't look good. People have still to this day are thinking that Sonny Liston threw the fight because it didn't look real enough. This is the kind of stuff we're dealing with here. So, I mean, I don't want to say the person's name, but the immaturity, the lack of experience, and the entitlement, it is really kind of offensive. If you don't think that what I'm teaching is helpful for you, please go. It's not my job to prove anything to you. But what this person is really saying is, I don't want to put the effort in to learn myself. So I'm not going to do that until you can prove to me that there's something to it. And if that's the case, even if I did that, it still wouldn't work. You still wouldn't get it because of that mindset. You've got to be willing to die to your own understanding of reality and then be willing. With my teacher, I felt and saw what he did, and I said, if he can do it, I can do it. So I'm going to do whatever the hell it takes to learn to do what that guy's doing. If you don't have that, you can't learn. And you don't have that so far. You're expecting me to do everything for you, prove it to you. Things I haven't even suggested that I would do. I don't know why you need to see me as some supernatural magician. I've never claimed to be that. Even if I had that ability, I wouldn't do it. So, I mean, it's just, I know you don't get it, but these questions are just so offensive. And I wouldn't want to train anybody that came to me with these kinds of questions. I would never train them. I would say, I'm the wrong teacher for you. There's the door. Let's see what else. To tell you the truth, I haven't read all of it here. To tell you the truth, I hold another codependent feeling towards you in that I'm worried about your business and how little it appears your message reaches. Would you ever do sort of celebrity fighting match with another YouTuber? Why would I do that? Why the fuck would I do that? How is that gonna help me? Again, I'm just reading this for the first time. Are you 10 years old? You sound like a 10-year-old. That's crazy. Would I fight somebody? What, to get what? What in my teaching gives you the idea that that's what I do here? Okay, manifesting. So now he's going to talk about manifestation. Manifesting, the main shebang. Can it really do anything? Obviously, you don't know yet. So you can't know unless you do it. That's the main line. That's the main thing here. When somebody asks, How many inches can I build if I go in the gym? I don't know. Go start lifting weights and find out. Will I ever be able to use this in a fight? I don't know. Go train and find out. What will this Qigong do for me? I don't know. Go do it and then tell me. You're different than I am. Find out what it'll do for you. I can tell you're somebody that doesn't take action. You want everything handed to you, and then when you're convinced, in your entitlement, in your immature, childish entitlement, when you're finally proven, then you'll deign to take action, but only if we put ourselves in trouble for you. Now, you're right. This is codependent in terms of my channel. My channel's success or lack thereof is not your problem. The only thing you should be worried about is it something that helps you? And if it is, who cares if I only have 5 viewers or 5 million? It's all the same to you. This is your projection. This is your codependent projection. This is your projection of, if I do that, I'm afraid I will look silly. I'm afraid that I'll fail. I won't be able to manifest. So can you do something outrageous so that I can vicariously project that onto you? So manifesting, the main shebang, can it really do anything? Is life created or random or both, and what's the limit? Your surf's life sounds amazing. I need to surf more myself. Oh, so you're a surfer. The ocean fascinates me, and I've dreamed of scuba diving as well. Have you seen the blah, blah, blah? Let's see here. We obviously exist in a society, and I wondered if you had any more of a developed worldview on how to live in that. I mean, I don't understand your question, man. I'm doing everything in my power to teach you exactly what I have. So I don't know what you're asking me here. When does something cross from healthy interacting to codependency? So it sounds to me like, I'm just going to give you a suggestion here. It sounds to me like you need some counseling. So let me give you some. Here, go to this website, coda.org. Go there and get a sponsor and start learning what codependence is and how to heal from it. Because I understand your confusion. You're not the only person who would be confused by some of the things. So I agree, you might have some codependency here. Why can't people be cured of their codependency? Why can't alcoholics eventually learn moderation? It smells of victim mentality. It may all stem from... Again, you're talking about things outside of you. Why are you worried about why alcoholics can't... Are you an alcoholic? If you're an alcoholic, then you'd ask another recovering alcoholic why they can't ever drink again. Why are you wasting all these questions on things that don't apply to you? You're not interacting with life. And it's destructive. It's destructive to other people. You've got to be fearless. You've got to go after what you want. You talked about being unsure if you wanted to help me or block me. I don't want to hold you if it's causing either of us blockages. So block me if you want. You're responsible for you. You're not responsible for me. I make the decisions about whether I want to block somebody or keep them. I make that decision. You don't make that decision. Start worrying about your own life. Yeah, you need to, I strongly recommend, let's see. What is this? Oh, she's going to mention Coda. Oh, so see, I didn't read the whole thing. I've been processing a lot. I've been thinking a lot. It just really confuses people and misrepresents me. It gets me into trouble. I've been particularly critical, approaching everything lately, determining what does and doesn't serve me, and have been overall very inspired by you and your idea of a perfect life. Great. I'm happy to hear that. My perfect life catches snags with you, though. Here, you're not even an apprentice of mine. You haven't even bothered to untangle this with me in person. How can I possibly help you? You'd have to be willing to be vulnerable and be on the other side of me asking you a bunch of questions. You're all doing it all by yourself in your own head. and you're not stepping out and doing life. And what you don't understand is this creates an inability to accomplish anything because you can't figure anything out practically because you end up second guessing everything before you do it. You're not uncommon. A lot of people do that. This is victim mentality. You want to talk about victim mentality? This is it. You have to be willing to go out there and fall on your face and look stupid and make mistakes, and you're not willing to do that. So you're going to sit around and think about it all. I've given you everything, how to do it. I've told you exactly what to do. I don't know if you're taking action on it or not. And if you are taking action on it and you're not getting what you want, that's part of the deal. You got to keep going until you get, I'm almost 60 years old and I'm just now figuring it out. I'm trying to give you guys the tools to cut through, and get to the hack faster. You don't have to go through everything I went through. But you got to be willing to put yourself out there and take action, and I don't see any of that here. My perfect life catches snags with you, though. I have to tell you that when you talk, here I am, I'm a teacher. This is why I have people ask me questions. So you're not asking me a question, you've put me in a corner and you've said that what I've described for you doesn't work for you, but you don't explain how. You don't give me the opportunity to help you. You have to be humble enough to ask for help and ask questions. And you don't do that. Your questions are passive aggressive, they're judgmental, they're passive aggressively judgmental. It's incredibly passive aggressive to say, are you willing to go and get in a paid fight and videotape it on YouTube to prove your martial abilities? It's incredibly passive aggressive. It would be one thing if I said, I'm the best fighter in the world and I'm teaching you how to fight, but I've never done that. I've made a lot of huge, bombastic, unbelievable claims about the martial art that I practiced. So I understand that. But I've never promised to teach you martial arts, and so your question doesn't even mean anything. It's a projection. You're trying to put me in a position so that you can unconsciously shame me. You want to put me in a position so that I will fall on my face, and then you can say, see, even he didn't have it. I had such hopes for what he was teaching, but I'm creating, I'm forcing him to dance on my string in my way, and he's not doing it, so therefore I'm not going to take the risk. My life is going to suck and it won't matter. And I'm going to finish reading, but I can guarantee you the rest of what you're saying means you aren't willing to put your ass on the line and take action. I'm going to prove it. Let's see. My perfect life catches snags with you, though. It doesn't, for example, involve going to CODA, which I've noticed greatly offends you. It doesn't offend me personally, but you've just said you're a codependent, so I'm assuming you came from my other channel. So you claim to be a codependent, yet you refuse to go to CODA to heal. You refuse to do the 12 steps with a sponsor and heal. So what's the point of confessing to be a codependent if you're not willing to do the work? You don't know what it takes to heal. Obviously, you don't know what it takes to heal from codependence. So what gives you the right to determine what works and what doesn't? All I know is that you're unwilling to take action. That's offensive to me because I want to help people grow. And it's offensive when people put you, as a teacher, put you in a box and say, I want you to teach me, but I'm not willing to take your direction. How can I possibly help you? It's entitled, it's childish, it's destructive, and I'm not going to co-sign your self-destruction. So that's why, now I know why, I couldn't get a grasp on, do I want to block you or do I want to help you? Because you're giving out double messages in your passive-aggressive, fear-based unwillingness to take action. You're passive-aggressive. I want what you have, but you have to prove it to me first. Let me give you some unreasonable, impossible thing so that I can feel entitled. I don't want to do the work myself, but I want to see you put your ass on the line and fail. You know, it's passive aggressive. It's destructive. This is what CODA would give you. You would have to get honest with yourself so you stop projecting your passive aggressive garbage on other people. Let's see. I would instead dream of a life where I wanted to share a beer with friends on a Friday night without being triggered to dysregulating. I don't know what that means. Are you an alcoholic too? There's plenty of people that can go out there and have a beer. So you're an alcoholic too? So get your ass to AA. To dream of being normal, of no longer, of no longer having a drinking problem. All right, so I'm wasting my time here. This is an absolute waste of time. You're not even, if you're still drinking, this isn't an attack. If you're still drinking, you're not even interfacing with objective reality. Of course my perfect life snags with you. Of course it does. So the kindest suggestion I can have for you is get your ass to Alcoholics Anonymous, find a sponsor, work the steps. Because if you are an alcoholic, none of this will work for you. As I've said in many videos, when I've had videos out there, here's the basics that you need if you want to learn what I teach. The first thing is you got to get rid of all the chemicals. You got to get rid of the alcohol. You got to get rid of caffeine. You got to get rid of nicotine. You got to get rid of THC, drugs, all of it. So you haven't even done the first step, and here you are demanding that I go out and get into a paid fight with somebody and for your amusement get my ass kicked so you can prove to yourself that you don't have to get up off your ass and do anything. So now I know why I find you so offensive. I'm not going to block you because you're not consciously abusive and aggressive, but now I know how to interpret your questions. Now I know. All right, so I was going to do more. I don't know that I want to do that, but I am happy to take questions. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put on just a little bit of a video here about, I don't know, whatever it is I got here, and give you guys time to ask a question. So if you have questions for me about anything, but about apprenticeship or about the mindset needed to master anything, the mindset needed to overcome your unconscious blocks. If you have any questions on those, along those lines, I'd be happy to take them. So let's see here. What video do I want? Let's do what? So we do have the maushan.thunderwizard.com, which is the elite energetic practice that I offer, which is in combination with the Warrior 90-Day Lightning Qigong. If you do these two things together, and I talk to people every day who are doing these things. And what's happening is people are getting more and more connected to what it is they truly want. They're bumping into their own fear-based blockages, and they're learning to overcome them, and they're experiencing the death. They're becoming more and more aware. This is the elite version of that. You put that together with this, and at the very least, you're going to have a very powerful Dr. Manhattan experience. And if you follow my instructions to the letter consistently, your life will change in the way it needs to for you. All right? So I'll put this on here and we can watch that, and I'll wait for any questions if there are any. If not, we'll call it an evening. So let's see. What am I doing here? Is that what I want? I guess it is. So I don't see any questions here. Let me take a look. Somebody asked me, do you believe in God? No. Not the monotheist God, Jehovah. Actually, I do. I take that back. I do believe in Jehovah. Jehovah is the human narcissistic ego. So people who worship Jehovah are worshiping their own self-directed, malignant narcissism within themselves. Vincent.thunderwizard.com says, hello Mahadeva. He is one of my certified astrologers. You can go to his website, vincent.thunderwizard.com, and you can get a reading from him. He's a very good astrologer. He knows stuff that I don't know. So I would definitely highly recommend him. And we've got Riho Rasta as well. Riho Rasta is also one of my Vedic astrologers. You can go to his website, riho.thunderwizard.com. All right, what else? I don't see anything else. Somebody asked me, Truth Untold, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Under normal circumstances, when we got a lot of people, it's hard for me to see the questions. So write the word question in all caps, and then write your question so I don't miss it. You asked me, have I tried Yichuan? Yes, I have. Very good stuff. Riho Rasta, honest feeling. I feel that there is a good chance to struggle with finding close relationships when listening to you all this time. I don't know what that means. I fear that the student will inherit the challenges of the teacher. So you're saying that, if I'm hearing you right, you're saying that if you were to become my student, that you would have a hard time finding close relationships. Well, I mean, look, you've got to listen to your intuition. You're not one of my apprentices, so we don't have an opportunity to work through that. If that's objectively true, you have to come to that conclusion. And if you think, me or anybody else, if your goal is to have close personal relationships and you think that I'm not capable of doing that, and therefore you shouldn't be my student, I mean, you should listen. I never try and convince anybody to be my student. If for any reason you don't think I'm the right teacher for you, by all means, go find the one that is. Whether or not that's true is another issue. But here's what happens. If you were my student, if you were my apprentice, for example, you would need to bring those feelings to me. And then what we would discover together is whether or not that's your projection based on because as you said, it's your fear. So the question is, are you projecting that onto me, or is it that I really have difficulty with personal relationships? So one of the things that happens with teachers is the same thing that happens with therapists. So this is why teachers and therapists should always charge money, because therapists are not allowed to have personal interaction with their students. They're not allowed to do that because the student or the patient comes to them and is in a vulnerable position, because the patient is opening up their mind and is taking their instruction, and they know that the therapist is going to manipulate their thinking and their things ideally for their best outcome. And so what ends up happening is that patients will project onto the therapist love, whether it's I love you like a father, or they'll want to be best friends, or they'll want to get romantically involved. And since this happens regularly, it's against the law. They can't do that. It's a violation. I mean, I don't know what the punishment is, but at the very least, they'll lose their license. You're not allowed to have a personal relationship. I think there's like a law where you can't have contact for a year. I don't know why that makes a difference, but so if you were my student, I would be wanting to know, are you projecting onto me? Because if I'm doing my job, then you're going to project your fears onto me. You're going to first project, I really want to be like him, usually. I really like him, I want to be with him, I really admire him, he's this amazing. And then when that starts to fade, then what's going to happen is you're going to go through your unconscious negative feelings towards your parents. And so then that makes me want to ask you, did your parents have good relationships? Did they have good intimate relationships with each other or with other people? These would be the things that I would ask you in session. And again, I wouldn't, I would support you. I would say, is that what you feel? Do you think that that's true about me? And I would say, if you really believe that, then it's in your best interest not to work with me, because you should find somebody that you think can give you what you want. But because I don't feel that way about myself, I mean, I've had a lot of close relationships in my life. So I don't think that's true. But then again, if it were true, I wouldn't be consciously aware of it anyway. The best thing anybody can truly say is if they say, are you a this or are you a that? The best thing you can say is, to the best of my knowledge, I'm not aware of that. Now, have I had struggles with personal relationships and intimacy? Yeah, I have. And I continue to do my best to become aware of it. But I fear that the student will inherit the challenges of the teacher. I can understand that fear as well, but having worked with very imperfect teachers, I can tell you that that's your choice. So a lot of the teaching that I do because I experienced it after working with teachers for years, and I found out what they did and what didn't work. And so I learned what not to do, but I didn't inherit the same issues of my teachers, but then again, some people do. Some people, they're very, so that's a worthwhile fear. But if I can teach anybody anything, I was going to bring this up in, I don't know if I should read it or not. I was going to bring this up. I was going to read something that just happened in the past 24 hours with somebody who claimed to really want to be my student and really want to share my teachings. And all I did was ask one question. And that turned into the person then turning around and telling me, go fuck yourself, you asshole, you worthless they just tore me a new one. Well, I guess that's not going to happen. I guess I won't be teaching that person. So we ran into his unconscious projections, but what we really ran into was his unwillingness to tolerate his uncomfortable feelings with me. Because there are things that I have shared my beliefs and my opinions on that he doesn't agree with. And that's a problem for him. Now, it's not a problem for me. The only thing that I require from students is, as I said, they show up on time, they pay me, they don't make unilateral decisions about our working together. And number 4, the obvious one, treat me with respect. So here's how you treat a teacher with respect. Riho, you did it. You didn't accuse me. Now you could have wrote on there, Mahadeva, it's obvious that you have a problem with close relationships, and you could probably go into your relationship with so-and-so that you've talked about, and that relationship, and you can't do that. And so I don't want you infecting then I would block you. I would just say, you're being rude and disrespectful, and I have no time for you, and I would block you. But you didn't do that. You had those same feelings, and instead of attacking me or accusing me or projecting them onto me, you owned them. Now, owning your feelings doesn't mean that you're getting rid of the possibility that I might be what you think. Having a feeling and say, my feeling is that you might be like this, and I don't want to end up taking on that, and so I'm afraid of being your student because of that. That doesn't mean you're wrong. It also doesn't mean you're right. And it could be somewhere in the middle, but what it does show is you acknowledging your own feelings, which, as I've said, the only two things I want from people in this is an honest question and an honest feeling. Those are the only two things I want from you. Because if you can own your feelings, nobody can control you. If you don't own your feelings, people will control you. How do you think people ended up storming the Capitol? Simply because Donald Trump alluded to the idea that they have to fight for their country. Because he said that the election was stolen from him. That's all it took for people to storm the Capitol and attack police officers and kill 5 people. Or 4 people. The 5th person was shot by somebody else, shot by a policeman. But if they owned their own feelings, they wouldn't be able to be manipulated into doing anything or believing anything or projecting. So Riho, good for you. And if you were my student and you shared that feeling, like I said, I wouldn't attack you for that. And I would say, here's what I think might be going on. Let me ask you, what went on with your parents? How did your parents get along? Oh, well, you might be projecting onto me. What do you think? Let's see. Lushka, question. What are your thoughts on hypnotherapy, and have you ever used it as a healing modality? My thoughts on hypnotherapy are the same as I have about positive affirmations. They ultimately don't work. It doesn't work. So let's talk about why positive affirmations don't work. Positive affirmations operate from the theory that if you give somebody verbal suggestions and it goes into their subconscious mind, that then they will manifest that. So if you, because I've done it, I've done hypnotherapy, I've done entrainment, I've done where you get somebody talking you through something, and I've made up my own hypnosis scripts, and I put myself into trance and fallen asleep and put it to my headphones, and it did nothing for me. So I can tell from personal experience that it doesn't work on me. But now I know why it doesn't work. Because the theory is that that you're a blank slate, and you're not. You're already programmed. As I say here, take back control of your soul, reverse their programming. You've been programmed. Everybody has been programmed. At the very least, you've been programmed by your parents, for good or for bad. And they're supposed to program you. If you're a parent, you're supposed to program your kid. They come to you as a blank slate. And in fact, if you don't program them, they'll die. If you don't program them, they become insane. This is where narcissists and serial killers and people with severe emotional and mental disorders, they've either been programmed insufficiently or they've been programmed wrong. So infants are blank slates, and they are all programmed. Normally you are programmed, and we're built this way. We've evolved to teach our children to be self-empowered and to love themselves. Once they have that program, then they go out and they're functional adults. So the assumption of hypnotherapy is that you are a blank slate, and so that means anything anybody says, as long as you're put in a trance, that will result in you behaving that way. So if you listen to a positive affirmation of, you're a millionaire, you have all the money in the world, everybody likes you, people respect you. If you do that, the theory is that you'll magically wake up, just like in one of those hypnosis shows, and you'll be able to do that and everything will happen. And how many people does that work for? It doesn't work for a lot of people. It didn't work for me. And the reason is because your unconscious has already been programmed. So, what happens in, hypnosis, shows where people are hypnotized into, barking like a dog or whatever, as any hypnotist will tell you, it's because they are allowing themselves to be programmed. So what's really happening isn't so much that they're being hypnotized. It's that they have either a predisposition or they have a programming to please other people. So the person who allows themselves to be programmed, when I snap my fingers, you're going to wake up and bark like a dog, that person wants the approval of the hypnotist. They also want the approval of the audience that's watching. If you don't want to be hypnotized, if you don't want to please the hypnotist, then it won't matter what he does. It won't work on you. So that's my thought. I think it doesn't work. Try something else. I mean, I teach people what to do. You know, listen, here's the fact. Here's the lesson. Here's the lesson to the guy that I was just talking about. I didn't reveal his name. The lesson to the other guy who, you know, said he wanted to be my apprentice, and then when I asked him a question, he literally tore me a new one and abused me in ways that nobody has in a long time, simply because I asked him a question. The message for those people is there's only one way to accomplish and become what you want. Taking action. That's it. You don't have to feel anything. You can be absolutely feeling the opposite. You can have, such fear that you can't keep your pants on. You could be so blind with rage or fear or confusion, but that doesn't stop you from taking action unless you decide it does. That's the message. You take action regardless of how you feel. So Luska, your question, whether you realize it or not, your question is, can somebody infuse with me the necessary feelings so that I can have what I want? And the answer to that question is no. If your parents didn't do it, nobody else is going to do it. Now, hypnotherapy. Let's take the example that hypnotherapy works on somebody. So, I mean, there's no shortage of people that go and bark like dogs. There's no shortage of people out there who say, I took this hypnotherapy course and it's changed my life. So I can't take away from them their experience that hypnosis helped them. But it doesn't help them, in my opinion, for the reasons they think it does. They honestly believed that if they gave over their mind to the hypnotist would reprogram them, and then they would just magically want to do everything and feel happy and all that and be able to make it happen. And so if they took such and such hypnosis course or hypnosis audio thing and put their headphones on and they wake up and they listen to it every day and their life starts getting better, it's not because they were hypnotized. It's because they have that in their unconscious. That in their unconscious, there's at least one part of them that believes and deserves that they can have, for instance, money. So they take a hypnosis course so they can become rich. So they can become financially prosperous. That's only going to work if in their unconscious that suggestion is already there. The only thing that the hypnotist has done has given them permission to act on their unconscious programming. They might have a conflict with it, and so this pushes them over the edge and they take action. Because what you'll find with somebody who's been hypnotized to be rich, what you'll find is, if you just watch them, is they get up off their ass and they do the work. They fall down, they still fall down, and they get rejected the same amount of time as everybody else. But they get up and they do it because they've been hypnotized. I've been hypnotized. I'm rich. I'm not going to stop. There's no difference. They're taking action, and they've given themselves an excuse to buy into and empower themselves in ways that's already in them somewhere. I can tell you from personal experience that you can take actions towards something that there is literally nothing inside of you that agrees with it. You can take action towards something that brings you such fear that you think it's going to kill you. And that's why I say you've got to be willing to die. You've got to be willing to die for what you want. And if you're not willing to die for what you want, you might as well just give up now, because at some point, something will happen where you will have the excuse to say, all right, forget it. You know, the guy who wanted to be my apprentice and then turned around and abused me horrifically because I asked him a question, that was already in him. He had already become an apprentice and then backed out. I didn't even know about it. He signed up for it. I even helped him with him. I gave him a refund so he could sign up again the next month and get, you know, a year off and a bunch of time off. And then he disappeared. I forgot about him. You know, because I didn't agree with him on some views that he wanted me to agree to, or that he, you know, whatever his take on, you know, certain things in life were. I didn't agree with him on that. And so that was enough. According to him, that was enough. I left because I didn't agree with you on this. But what that meant is that inside he's already got the program that he's going to be rejected. Makes me think Daddy rejected him. I don't remember him, but makes me think Daddy probably rejected him. So he's going to play that out with me. He's going to project that onto me, and all I have to do is ask one question, and that's enough. And so I couldn't teach him even if I wanted to, because he's not willing to take the action that goes against his intense discomfort. So you have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to be so uncomfortable that it's killing you. You have to think, if I do this, it'll kill me, but I want it more than I want this life that I have. This life that I have isn't satisfying. I want more. So I'm willing to die. And I've said that. I have literally said that. When I left Idaho December of 2012, I got in my Jeep and I shoved in everything that I could shove in, and I got in my car and I drove out of my house that I had with my wife, you know, the 3-bedroom, 2-story house on an acre covered by trees, you know, then all the stuff that I've invested in and I walked away from my what do you call it? My dogs and my studio. I had built a studio in the house so that I could have students. I walked away from all of that with no money, racked with physical pain, incapable of I couldn't have held this bottle of juice. It would have been too hard on my wrist because I had such bad tendonitis. And I got in my Jeep, and then a few months later, I got in my Jeep and I drove all the way to Southern California, out of shape, in pain, and I went and bought a surfboard. I hadn't surfed in 10 years. I bought a surfboard and a wetsuit, and I went out in the middle of winter when the waves were double overhead and the water was freezing, and I knew I might drown, and I said, I don't care. This is something I want to do, and I haven't been doing it for 10 years, and if I die surfing, then that's how I die. If I end up living in a cardboard box on the beach, as long as I have a surfboard and the beach, and if that's what ends up happening, that's what ends up happening. I refuse to work at Walmart, so I'm going to start my own business. I have no idea what I'm going to do. I don't have any money. I'm totally in debt. I don't know how I'm going to even pay rent, you know, in a week. I was in those places more often than I can count. And I'm not crying over it because it works. If you take action, no matter how painful it is, even if you think it will kill you, if you take action towards what you want, it always works out. So the guy who's asking me all these questions to go out, you know, am I willing to go and fight somebody on YouTube so that I can prove to him that what I'm teaching is real, because he can't get up off his ass to go to Alcoholics Anonymous or CODA or do any of the stuff that I'm teaching. I mean, he's doing some of the stuff, obviously. That's not my problem. You got to do the work. You've got to take the action. If there's anything I can do to help you take the action, please tell me. I will do it. I'm doing everything I know how to do, but you got to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. No hypnotist is going to give you the feeling to make you feel like, okay, now I can finally go do it. Nobody is going to give that to you. If they do, like if I inspire you and because of me you feel inspired to go do something, you did it. You just used me as the excuse, and I'm happy to be your excuse. I'm also more than happy to be your excuse to not do it. You know, this guy who, abused me in all kinds of names, after saying, I want to be your student, I want to spread your teachings to the world, and I really want to do this, but I have this problem because you have this belief. And I said, well, so should you then? That was the question. I said, so should I be your teacher then if you have that belief? Because I'm probably going to bring it up at some point. And if it's enough for you that you didn't, that you walked away for 6 months and came back, then I'll probably say it again without even realizing it because it's something I believe. And what are you going to do? Are you going to not be my student then? I said, if that's the case, then maybe you should think it through. And I meant it. That's, and he could have come back and he could have said, you're right, but I'd like to work through that with you. I would have said, great. When do you want to meet? I would have been more than happy to listen to him tell me why my political views didn't work for him. And I would say, great. Now, what does that have to do with what you want to do with your life? You want me to tell you why I believe that? No? Okay, fine. Let's talk about you now. Why are you letting my political differences keep you from what you want? Where did you get that from? I don't care. You can believe whatever the hell you want. Doesn't bother me. I mean, I might tell you my opinion. You're going to have to deal with that uncomfortability. So you're saying that you're so insecure in your own beliefs that if somebody has a different belief from you, you can't tolerate being around them? I can tolerate being around anybody as long as they own their opinions, like own their feelings. You can look me in the eye and you can tell me, I want to slit your throat. I hate you so much right now. I would say, that sounds like a challenging feeling. I wouldn't judge you for a feeling. But if you turn around and said, you deserve to die, you piece of shit, then I'm going to block you because now you're acting it out instead of owning it. But it takes guts to own your feelings and not act on them because you got to sit with them. And that's the hardest thing to do. And that, I think, is the most powerful lesson there is. It's the most valuable lesson I've learned in life. The most valuable lesson is I don't have to like it. I don't have to feel good. I just have to take appropriate action. That's all. And I can do that. But if you tell me I have to feel good, I'm going to give up now because I can guarantee you there are going to be days, no matter how perfect my life is, just because of the way I'm set up, because of the craziness inside of me. I'm not wrapped together very tightly. I'm held together by pieces of duct tape. I'm barely held together. So if I had to feel good, I would just give up now because there's just guaranteed there are going to be days where I'm going to be miserable. There are going to be days when I'm going to be homicidal and suicidal. That's just part of my childhood garbage. But I learned I don't have to feel good. But I do have to take constructive action. And I can do that. If that's it, you mean all I have to do is take that action? I have control over that. I don't have control over how I feel. So all of you waiting to feel good before you take action, you're never going to get past the starting line. It's never going to happen. And there are people who don't have the same problems as you, that don't have the same problems as me. Making decisions is easier for them. Taking action is easier for them. And you can still beat them. You can still be better than them, more successful than they are. Because the only thing the world cares about is the actions that you take. If you do the work and take the actions, you always get what you want. Always, without fail. You might not even like it. You might get the perfect job, you might get all the money, you might get the perfect wife, and then still want to blow your brains out. So you're not guaranteed. Your feelings are not guaranteed. The results are guaranteed. You have control over your actions. This is what I'm trying to tell you. What this guy who I just talked about, who I read his stuff, he wants to tell me, even though he's not saying it, that he's not in control of his actions. Will he ever be happy? Will it ever be good? Will I ever have this? I don't fucking know. Get up off your ass and do something about it. You're an alcoholic? Go to AA. You're a codependent? Go to CODA. Talk to a therapist. Those are actions you can take. See what else? Wes James, welcome to the channel. If you have a question, write the word question in all caps. And I'll be happy to take a look at it. You say, what to you is the astrological sense is the meaning of the Yod aspect? What is if your natal has 4 of them due to the super... I don't know what that is. So if that's Vedic astrology you're talking about, I'm not familiar with it. I'm a Vedic astrologer. If that's a Western astrology thing, then I don't know a damn thing about it. Don't know how to help you. Either way, either I'm ignorant of my own Vedic astrology, or it's a Western thing and I don't know the first thing about it. Okay, what else? Lorena Greco, honest feeling. I feel resistance to staying subscribed on Patreon, but not to doing the work every day. So I don't know. That's not a question. You can have that feeling. And hey, you can unsubscribe whenever you want. You know, the difference between Patreon and being an apprentice is, an apprentice, you can't leave without talking to me first. I mean, you can. You physically can. There's nothing I could do to stop you from, unsubscribing from the apprenticeship program. But it's a gentleman's agreement. We agree beforehand, right? So you're going to stick with me, and when you want to leave, you talk to me about it in paid session before you do it. And then we agree. It's an agreement. And I promise you that if you can convince me, this is a promise I make to all of you, if you can convince me that it is in your best interest to leave the apprenticeship program, I will co-sign that. And I've done it. There's been numerous people who've come to me and they said, I think I'm done. And I'll say, why? And they'll tell me why. And I'll go, I agree with you. For multiple reasons. Because ultimately I think that they have gotten what they need and it's time to go. Some of them because I realize I'm never going to be able to teach this person. But whatever it is, we come to an agreement, and yeah, I will agree. But in terms of keeping you as an apprentice, I don't have any power over that. But in terms of the 90-day challenge, you can unsubscribe and come back whenever you want. You want to unsubscribe and come back in a year? Go ahead. I can't stop you. I obviously don't want that because, you're putting money into my bank account by staying in there. But I can't stop you. If you're thinking about, do I want to do this or not, try it out for a month. You can unsubscribe next month. You got nothing to lose. But I appreciate the feeling. I'm hoping that will give you the ability to tolerate that feeling. And what I can guarantee you is that if you're doing the 90-day challenge and you're doing the work and you're subscribed, if you continue to do the work and stay subscribed, because more stuff, I'm always putting new stuff on there. Sometimes I'll go weeks without putting things up, but I'm always putting new things up there. So if you're unsubscribed, you're not going to have access to it. But I guarantee if you stay subscribed and do the work, you're going to continue to see more changes. You're going to have more experiences. But hopefully you sharing that feeling will give you the ability to stay and continue to do the work. Timothy Zoll, how many times have I said I'm not interested in your comments? Let's see what your comment is. That's a comment. That's a thank you, so you're welcome. Fim Sample CG, honest feeling. I always feel like if I'm overcoming something, I have to overcome that thing alone because I would feel powerful and trust myself, and I would feel like I can take care of myself. Well, that's an honest feeling. I can't judge you for a feeling, but in my experience, that's just not how life works. I have a teacher. I have a therapist. I have group therapy that I go to. If that's not enough, there are people I will reach out to for help and for support. And I have people that reach out to me and support me. I can't do this thing alone. I wouldn't be here. If I tried to do this thing alone, I'd be dead, and there'd be dead people as a result of it. So if you can do things alone, then you definitely don't need me, because you know something I don't. I don't know anybody who can do this stuff alone. But that's your false humility, feeling that if you reach out and have other people help you, that you're not really doing it. That's your false humility, meaning that's your pride, that's your ego, that's your narcissism, because it's just not accurate. Try having a kid by yourself. I mean, you got to have sex with another person to do it. I mean, there are just some things that just don't work when you do them by yourself. Take a dump by yourself if you're an adult, fine. You can do that by yourself. But this kind of work, how could you possibly do it alone? I don't know. I can't. I've already said the reason why I share this online is because I know anybody who tries to replicate what I'm doing just by looking at that, they'll never get it. I already know that, because you can't learn this thing alone. You can't do it. You got to have help. You got to have somebody adjust this, and in this one especially, you have to have somebody transmit energy. So they have to transmit the energy to you and connect you to the ancestors before you can turn those strikes into, martial art weapons. So I'm not worried about that. You can see it, try and do it. You're not going to get, I don't know what you're going to get out of it, but you won't be able to use it in a fight. The film sample goes on to say, I don't think I trust myself, and sometimes I don't realize it. It sounds like it. But here's the good news. You don't have to trust yourself. That's just a feeling. You just have to take the action. So you take the opposite action. Here's contrary action. You don't think that you can learn anything from somebody else, and so your impulse is telling you have to learn it alone, and I'm telling you do the opposite. Your insides can tell you all day long that you need to learn this alone, and you're learning it from that person, and so you're worthless. You can have that feeling all day long. That feeling isn't what's important. What's important is that you are sticking your hand out and asking questions and having somebody help you and guide you and support you. So it's just a feeling. Let's see. Truth Untold, are you asking a question? I teach Qigong and meditation, and I would still take your course to expand my knowledge and share information. I feel you have something unique to offer. Thank you for putting yourself out there. You're welcome. Cody Hill. Oh, Cody Hill. I don't know how to respond to you, Cody. There's just since you're here, I was going to read your thing like you provoked me to do, and I haven't decided to do that yet. But Cody, look, you came to me. I didn't come knocking on your door. You came to me and you asked to be my apprentice. You even paid for like the year thing where you get 2 months off. And if you remember, I came to you and I said, you should do that in January. Let me give you your $1,000 back. I gave you all of your money back. You decided not to come back, and according to you, you did it because you don't like my politics. I don't care. And that was enough to keep you away for 7 months. And then you come back 7 months later and you don't talk to me, you don't reach out to me and ask me. You just unilaterally decide. First, you unilaterally decide to leave without talking to me. And then you unilaterally decide you're going to come back without talking to me. And then you do something. Let me just share something to you. If you can hear this, but this is something everybody can hear. It's what my teacher calls good contact functioning. So you had very bad contact functioning, which was unconscious. You don't realize you were unconsciously provoking me, or at least you were trying to. And then you acted as though I did what you were trying to provoke me into doing, which I didn't do. But when you said, I'm sorry I left because your politics kind of turned me off, that hit me in a weird way. Like, why is he telling me that? You didn't have to say anything. I didn't ask. I wouldn't have asked. I don't care. I wouldn't have even known. I would have said, oh, Cody Hill, I think I remember that guy. Okay, well, we'll get started. And then you could have brought it up in a session and we could have talked about it. But you threw it out there and you basically said, I ghosted you without telling you because I couldn't tolerate the feelings that I have because you have different politics than me. And so that got me thinking. It's like he's not going to be able to take instruction. So you already put me on the defensive. Like from the get-go, the only thing I know is that I can't have my political opinions around him because he might disappear. I didn't make that up. You put that in there. That was your... No, I understand people do unconscious things, but I'm just letting you know. So when I saw that, and then you went on to say how much you wanted to be my apprentice and how much you wanted to be my student. Not only that, but you like repeated yourself. And then you went on to say that you wanted to spread my teachings, which I don't need people to do, but you were trying to let me know how serious you were about being a true student. So let me explain to you what that means. A true student is you show up and you say, yes, sir, no, sir. And you say, what should I do now, Sifu? Sifu says, you stand in the corner on one leg. Yes, sir. You don't ask why. You don't ask for how long. So you said you wanted to do that. And I responded to what you'd said. And if you remember, I don't know if you have access. I can read. Should I read what I said to you? I won't read what you said to me. But I'll read what I said to you. Let me see if I can find it. I still have access to it. I don't think you have access to it anymore, do you? Just give me a second here. Where'd it go? Okay, so since you're on here and you're being respectful, I won't pull your pants down in front of everybody else. But after that, after you saying what you said about, I'll read your first message because there's nothing wrong with it. You said, I apologize for leaving for a while. The political views kind of turned me away. Anyways, I'm currently working through the 90-day challenge. I will be purchasing the Mao Shan course once I'm a few months in. I just subscribed at the $108 level. I'm honestly looking to truly be an apprentice. Not only do I want to learn from you, but I also would like to help spread this wisdom. I apologize for the novel. I just wanted you to know why I left and to let you know that I'm serious. So, you're telling me I'm really serious about this and I left because I don't agree with you politically, so much so that I left for 7 months. It bothered me that much. And here's my response. And so I'd like for anybody to tell me if my response was in any way negative, harsh, abusive. Please enlighten me if there's something I'm missing. So my response to you was, hi Cody, welcome back. Well, perhaps your desire to leave should not be dismissed. I have pretty strong political views and I will most likely voice them in our private sessions. So if they bothered you enough to leave, perhaps I'm not the right teacher for you. I don't want to tiptoe on eggshells trying to avoid stimulating your desire to leave if I happen to share a political view that makes you want to leave again. So what do you think? ? Since we apparently are on such opposing political sides, is it better to honor our differences? ? Now, for somebody who says, I am serious and I want to not only learn from you, but I want to be a true student, the response is to answer my question honestly. No, sir, I don't think so, because even though I disagree with you, I'm willing to overlook that because what you have to teach will help me. No, sir, in fact, I'm willing to hear what you have to say. Maybe I'm not seeing everything. I'm happy to hear what you have to say about it. I don't care. I want to be... And I'm not going to read what you said. You know what you said. But, I've got, twice you told me to go fuck myself. And those are just, 2 things that you said. And I'm reading this at 2 o'clock in the morning. In bed, I'm reading this, and I'm like so hurt and so shocked, because here I am thinking that I'm connecting with somebody that, has shown a lack of commitment and respect for me on all kinds of levels, but the poor guy's trying, so what do you think? I meant what I said. Do you really think it's in your best interest to be the student of somebody that you have such a hard time agreeing with that you have to leave for 7 months? Is that really a good idea for you? Should you think this through a while longer? It saddens me. I was reaching out to you as a friend, and your response was to tell me to go fuck myself among all the other things you told me to do. This is what I mean by the programming. The programming determines your life. And you found every single excuse you needed to paint me as to, I don't know what. I'm assuming your abusive dad. I don't remember if you have a dad or what the deal is, but that's what it makes me think of. And so I refunded your $108 and I blocked you from Patreon. And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I asked you that question, because if this happened, it would have happened in session after I had spent months probably banging my head against a wall, getting paid $108 to try and help you work through your unconscious resistance, because that's what ends up happening a lot of times with difficult students. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to work with you. You didn't give me an opportunity. But this is what I mean. If people out there understand what it means to be an apprentice, it means you walk in the door and you have the right to have whatever feelings you have. I didn't agree with my teachers on things. I can't even tell you the list of all the things that I totally thought they were so fucking screwed up and wrong about. But they had something I wanted. So I showed up and I said, yes, Sifu. And if I had a question, it was about the practice. And I said, Sifu, how do I do this? And he says, do that. Stand on your head for 6 months. And I said, yes, Sifu. And he said, hey, Mike, you need to come over because I need somebody to paint my fence. And I said, yes, Sifu. And I came over and I did things for him. And I made websites for him. And I did videos for him. And I busted my ass for him because he was my teacher. And that's important because it's not about the teacher. This is, again, what I want everybody to understand is I am teaching you how to think and how to respond to the universe. You do not get an opportunity to demand that the universe do anything. The universe is not codependent. This is why, those deals that people think they make with God are ridiculous. God, if you give me this, I promise I'll dedicate my life to you. Cat Stevens was, if you remember the guy from the 70s, brilliant, such a talented musician, Cat Stevens. He disappeared. He was like, he was really good. If you go, T for the Tillerman, fabulous, amazing stuff. Really, really good. And then he just disappeared. And then we find out later that he became a Muslim. And he became a Muslim because he was swimming and he was drowning, or he thought he was going to drown. And so he said, God, if you save me, I will give my life to you. So he didn't drown. And his result of that wasn't, okay, now I'm going to give my life to my music and I'm going to share my music with the world. That's how I give myself to God, by playing music more than I ever have. No, he becomes this Muslim who later on, after 9/11, says, well, if I'm honest, The Quran says jihad, you have to go and kill the enemy. I mean, that's not how it works. You don't have to make these deals with the universe. You only have to do one thing, and that is to follow your true soul desire. But you don't get into fights with the universe about it. You don't negotiate. You can't negotiate with your soul. That's why I say it's a commandment. You have to follow the commandment of your soul. Are you guys listening to me? I'm not telling you you have to follow my commandment. I'm not telling you have to be my followers and kiss my feet. I'm not telling you to do that. The message I'm giving you is that you are your own guru. But you're going to have to learn from somebody who's accomplished what you want, which means you're going to have to go to them and say, Sifu, what do I do next? Tell me what I should do. Sifu, I have a question. And when they tell you something you don't want to hear that makes you want to get up and leave, you say, thank you, Sifu, and then you deal with it by yourself. One thing I didn't do is I didn't go tell my teachers how screwed up they were, politically, romantically, or otherwise, because I just want to learn from them. So Sifu, and the universe is the same way. The universe will give you knowledge if you get out of your own way. The universe will give you knowledge far beyond what you could possibly imagine, power far beyond what you could possibly imagine, if you're willing to get out of your own way. But you got to be willing to die to the programming. So Cody, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be your dad or whoever it was that you project onto me. I'm not going to do that for you. Not only that, I'm not going to co-sign for you your victimhood. Unfortunately, you had numerous chances with me, and that, what you did, destroyed any desire within me to teach you. And so we're done. I will never be your teacher. You never get to be my apprentice. Because you had that opportunity, and the best lesson I can give you is you must live the karma of your actions. And that karma is you have closed that door between me and you, and that door can never be opened again. If you come to the realization, maybe you're going to walk away from this and be pissed off at me, but if you come to the realization that you screwed up and you destroyed, that's for you to figure out. I'm not saying you did. If you come to the realization that you threw away an opportunity of a lifetime, because you're right, this is never coming back again. I don't know if there's anybody out there that teaches it. I can guarantee you there's nobody teaching this and this together. I can promise you that. There's nobody on the planet that knows what I know and has put it together the way that I have. So that's a once in a lifetime, that's gone. And I'm not going to give you that opportunity again. Because for your benefit, you now, hopefully, if you take this lesson, you won't project that into your life going forward. The next time you ask somebody or unconsciously stimulate somebody to be on the edge, like I was stimulated to go, man, I don't know if I want to teach this guy. He's willing to walk away for 7 months because he doesn't agree with my politics. According to him, it just slightly bothered him. And that's enough to make him not, just unilaterally ghost me. I don't think I want to put the time and effort into that. So I'm going to ask him. I'm going to probe to see. And I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if he can, give me something to let me know that he's willing to work on it. But because now maybe in the future you'll wait a day. Somebody asks you a question and you lose your shit. You'll go, okay, I'm really pissed off, but I'm going to wait a day. Or I'm going to go ask my friend, what do you think I should say? I think he's saying this, and your friend will go, no, he's just asking a question. Hopefully you'll take that lesson into your next whatever it is you're going to do. But I'm not going to teach you. And that's not out of any punishment. That's so that hopefully that karmic lesson will sink in and your life will get better. My hope is, my desire is that your life will get better as a result of this. All right, so enough of that. Let's see what else. Where am I? I thought we were going to be done a while ago, but I guess not. Yadweh Yisrael. Welcome to the channel. I don't care. Even though I mention what I mentioned, if I mention things like storming the Capitol and Trump this, it's not because it's a political channel. It's because I'm using it to demonstrate something that I think. I have no interest in listening to your unverified, nonsensical rumors. So I'm going to delete that. If you post it again, I'll just block you just for my own sanity, so I don't have to deal with you. Go on to another channel if you need to talk about politics, because I'm not going to do it with you. What else? Film sample CG. However, I'm still doing it and consciously falling into this loop of overthinking, and it's emotionally painful. Yeah, again, people ask me all the time, how do I get over this feeling? How do I get over? You don't have to get over it. Stop trying to stop overthinking it and getting rid of your feelings. I mean, it's mentally exhausting to try and get rid of your feelings. Just stop trying to fight your feelings. Just take the actions. Just take the actions. And the feelings will be whatever they're going to be. You know, again, those who die in battle. You're standing on the battlefield. The guy next to you can't wait to get in there. You're scared out of your mind and you want to run out of there screaming like a little girl. It doesn't matter. You have totally different feelings from that guy, but your feelings won't determine whether or not you live. That guy might die. That guy who's gung-ho might jump in there and be careless and might get killed. Your fear might keep you alive. Your feelings are your feelings. Just take the action. It doesn't matter. Talk to somebody. Have somebody to talk to about it. All right, so Riho Rasta says, my parents had and still have an extremely happy relationship. All right, so I don't know. Then, you know, either you're right and I'm the wrong teacher for you because I don't have the kinds of relationships you want, or you're projecting onto me because of your own insecurities about relationships. Do you have good relationships with people? So are you projecting onto me? But the truth is, I can't damage your ability to have relationships. Even if you're right, I can't damage that. I don't have that ability unless you take it on. The other question, Riho, is, do I have something you want? I obviously haven't shown you that I have the ability to give you the relationship abilities that you want. Do I have other things that you want? Because my teachers, they had a lot of things I didn't want either, but they had things that I wanted. So I stayed with them as long as they had something that I wanted. So you have to ask yourself, if you're my apprentice, you have to ask yourself, does he still have something to teach me? And the moment that you think that I don't have something to teach you, you won't hurt my feelings. I may have whatever thoughts about it. I won't be personally hurt. I will move on to the next one. You'll make room for somebody else. I don't get attached to my students. So ask yourself, do I have something that you want? If so, I would stick with it. If not, you have my warmest wishes to find whatever it is that empowers you. I know I'm not the only game in town. Absolutely. Let's see what else. Cody Hill says, I honestly felt you were being passive aggressive. And? So what? You shot yourself in the foot over me being human in your mind, even if you were right. Even if you were right, so fucking what? According to you, you really wanted to learn. You really wanted to learn the 5-element Mao Shan. I did too, and I paid money out the ass, and I sat on the floor and listened to him babble, and I painted his fence, and I did all kinds of shit I didn't want to do. He was passive aggressive. He would lash out at me. He did all kinds of human things. So fucking what? I wanted what he had. I was willing to do whatever it took. And the moment that he didn't have anything to give with me, I would have left. He ended up, getting rid of me before that happened. And it was the best thing that ever happened, because then I got to train with people that knew more than he did. So maybe you'll be able to find somebody that'll get you what you really want. But I wasn't, even if I wasn't being passive aggressive to the best of my knowledge, but even if I was, so what? You're going to let that stop you? The universe is going to test you. It wouldn't have been out of traditional behavior for me to test you, for you to come in and for me to test to see if you had a short temper and to say anything. Yeah, you look kind of stupid. I mean, should I teach somebody as stupid as you? I mean, there are teachers that will see if you can tolerate that. I don't do that, but somebody would do that. You go, yeah, yep, I think I can learn. Even somebody as stupid as me, Sifu. And he'll go, good answer, good for you. Don't let anybody talk you out of anything. So fucking what, Cody? Jesus Christ, you're the one yelling at me to grow the fuck up? Seriously? I had something you wanted more than anything and you thought I was being passive aggressive and that gave you being passive aggressive, even that is not a justification for completely going nuclear on somebody. I mean, there's no way that I could have listened to that and then turned around and said, okay, I'll teach you. Did you think that was going to happen? Did you think that I was going to knuckle under? I mean, what did you think was going to happen? I imagine you weren't thinking. You had a lot of feelings and you reacted. So now you know you can't act like that if you want anything from anybody, really. But if you want to learn from a teacher or get something from the universe, you can't do that. Vincent.thunderwizard.com. Honest feeling. I'm irritated and frustrated by passive-aggressive people who can't own their feelings. I used to be one of them, so I can empathize, but therapy and 90-day challenge changed that. Okay. So I appreciate that feeling. Let's see what else. Truth Untold is trying to help Cody after the fact. It's too late. Sorry about that. All right, nothing else. I don't see any more thoughts or questions. All right, so I ended up dealing with both of the things that I wanted to look at. I wasn't going to talk about Cody, but Cody came on. And to his credit, he was not abusive, so I talked to him. Any case. All right, so that's it for me. I don't have anything else today. I hope you guys are doing well. Take care of yourselves. And remember, take your soul back. Take back control of your soul. Take back control of your narrative. Your narrative determines everything. You have to be aware of what your narrative is. And if you can become conscious of what your narrative, if you can become conscious of your narrative, you can do and be anything, is my experience. You know, and I'm learning this lesson all the time. I'm no different than you guys. I wake up after a nap. If I take a nap in the afternoon, I wake up. If you would not want to live in my head, the kind of stuff that goes on in my head, the self-destructive, you know, I mean, I wake up sometimes and I want to blow my brains out. I hate myself so much after a nap. It's because that old unconscious programming kicks in. For some reason, if I take a nap in the middle of the day, that happens. And I wake up and I have to do the same thing. I say, even though I have this feeling, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. And then I tell myself, that's just my programming. I can act, and then I'll go do something. I'll go do something totally different than what my programming is telling me to do. And I won't like it, I won't believe it, but it works. Some of my best videos that people have, you know, ended up, you know, some days where thousands of dollars I've made that day have been days that what I want to do is put a gun to my head, but I do the opposite of that. Because I know that, you know, the other thing is you can farm your narrative out to someone else. This is what deity worship is, by the way. If you worship Hanuman or Shiva, you're farming your narrative out to them. So you ask yourself, all right, you say to yourself, I feel like a loser, I'm no good, I'm worth nothing, nothing goes my way, everybody hates me, you know, I'm bad at relationships, whatever it is. You say that to yourself and you say, okay, what would somebody do if they were successful, happy, attractive, had good relationships with others, what would those people do? And then you go do that. I've shared with you one of the most powerful things I do for myself is, I lived with my brother. You guys know, last I saw, my brother was homeless. I don't know if he's even alive now, but last I saw him, or last I heard about him, he was homeless and panhandling and sick. And I grew up in the same house as him. There's no reason for that to be the case. There's no reason for him to be out there. He had more than every opportunity, more opportunities than most people in the world. And he ended up where he ended up. And he chose because he kept choosing to do it. He kept refusing any opportunities that came his way to give him something else. And if you go talk to him, he'll say it was my fault. His brother that's 5 years younger than him, that I did it to him. And I don't know, he'll have, anyway. Point is that your narrative does everything. And so if you don't have the narrative, like if you can't create a narrative because it's not there, then you ask what somebody else's narrative is. What would they do? And then go do it. And you'll get the results of that as if it is your narrative, even though it's not. But you got to take control of your soul back. Your soul has a path and a desire that is beyond anything and anybody. Even Cody. If Cody decides that he wants what I have, even if I've decided not to give it to him, somebody or something will come along to give it to him. If he's determined enough to do whatever the hell it takes, he'll find it. I can tell you that from personal experience as well. Okay, let's see. Fim Sample said, Mahadeva, the last thing you read that I wrote is part of an honest feeling that you missed. Let's see. Fim Sample. Where'd he go? Oh, Witchy Crafter said something I missed. Fim Sample CG, I'm not finding it, so I don't remember what it was. So, Fim Sample, no, yeah. Anyway, I apologize. I don't remember what it was. I do misinterpret things all the time. Fim Sample, yeah, okay. Yeah, Truth Untold, welcome to the channel. Here's what I'd prefer from now on. If you'd like to interact with me, I don't want your comments. They're noise. I don't need you to agree or disagree. So I don't need a peanut gallery cheering me on. I certainly don't want to get into any online arguments with people. If you have an honest question, ask me a question. If you have a feeling, share a feeling. The rest of it is noise. It just gets in my way. I know other channels let people do that. You watch other channels. Try and follow the online chat of most people's channels. It's just bombarding of people just putting emojis, and it's just nonsense. It's just noise. It's just that. On my channel, I want your honest questions and your honest feelings. That's all I really care about. So anyway, thanks for everybody for everything. I hope you're all doing well, and I will see you when I see you.